They talk about world Jewry being a thing and how it's an international cabal that works together for the betterment of Israel.
They would attack us on YouTube, petition to get me fired, banned from Australia. They went after like my family members. And then, of course, the lawsuits nonstop. There's something about the true free markets that Zionists can't stand. They're constantly manipulating the markets so that people think that they are number one, and they're not. They actually require censorship, questioning Israel. That's actually what they're fearful of, is people understanding just how long this has been going on, how vicious it is. The more that they lie, it rebounds very quickly onto them, and it creates more pressure against them, and they can't stop lying.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The 50,000 prayer mats are here! Uh-oh. The first thing people need to do when they accept Islam is pray, but the process is very difficult because they don't know Arabic. This free salam mat they can order from the website, and you know what it has? It's got a transliteration. £100 can teach 10 to 30 people how to pray salah and do wudu. Imagine the sadaqah jariyah that you're going to get when you've taught this person to pray and this person teaches that person to pray, and it goes on until the day of judgment.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. If you're watching this video and it's salah time, please pause it and go pray and come back when you're done. Please check out the description section of this video to support the channel. I came across an unexpected collaboration between Candace Owens and Myron Gaines, where Myron interviewed Candace in her studio, and of course the topic of Zionism came up. Despite Candace and Myron's political leanings, it cannot be denied that their individual efforts in calling out Israel have been phenomenal. And although their approaches may be different, the results are similar, as in it awakens the world to the dark and ugly reality of Zionism. Speaking of which, despite both Myron and Candace being very well versed on the topic, Myron was still taken aback by the extent to which Candace has been targeted, as she revealed what she survived so far. Let's watch the first clip.
When it comes to Zionism, Jewish power, and these other things, what red-pilled you on this topic that made you say, I got to speak up? Even though this is a very taboo topic, deal with demonetization, cancellation, losing an employer. What made you say, I got to speak up on this?
I want to get into heaven. And I think people don't realize that that's real. Like, I think people who are atheists don't understand that a part of this whole psych operation was to make you an atheist. Because if you knew for certain that when you die, there is more, which there is, you would be living your life differently. At the very moment that I know anything is true, I can't tell a lie, right? So when I was working, and giving the example again for PragerU, I genuinely, first off, wasn't up on the topic of Israel. It wasn't kind of a common discussion. There was no pressure on me to get out there and say things that are pro-Israel. I just genuinely believed it. I would say after October 7th, they were kind of demanding that you take a side. I watched Bassem Youssef. This was truly the mental turning point for me. He went on to Piers Morgan and it went viral. And he held up this paper where he showed how many deaths there were every year of Palestinians versus Israelis. And I will never unsee that. And he was being totally a jackass about it, was just kind of using humor, which is the best tool, and being like, so what's the equation of how many lives are worth? So I'm going, okay, so I'm supposed to believe these are the evil people, but this is how many people. And then I had Norm Finkelstein on my show at the Daily Wire, because I was like, let me go to someone who actually is not an anti-Semite, right? His parents survived the Holocaust, and he's a professor who was denied tenure for a ridiculous reason because he's committed to telling the truth about Gaza, and he wrote so many books on it. And that to me was like, wow.
So that like red pilled you on the topic, like seeing the deaths and everything, because no one ever sees like the Palestinian perspective, because it's like almost like in America, well, especially if you're a conservative, the default setting is we support Israel unequivocally every single time, and you never even hear the other perspective. So, and I've said that too, like October 7th kind of opened up this discussion, whereas like I remember before it, like if you talked about it, you would get demonetized, banned. That's what got me demonetized. I remember you had debated a rabbi, I can't remember his name.
A couple of them. There was Rabbi Shmuley, and then there was
that idiot and the other
who
one.
was, oh gosh, I have to remember his name. He was my favorite. Candace.
Yeah.
This is the worst anti-Semitism. He actually was low-key my favorite because he was so over the top.
Oh, yeah.
He was so over the top. And he was like, you can't even say, what was it, witches? Skylar, what was the name of that rabbi? Barclay, Rabbi Barclay. That was his name.
And I think that was one of your last debates you did on Daily Wire too. I think you were still on the Daily Wire there. Did Ben ever like have a conversation with you about this? If you could disclose it. Like
no.
he just like never talked to you in person about this. He just like trashed you. Because I remember seeing a clip of him like at some type of social gathering, like late in the year of that year, saying, oh yeah, I think what she's doing is, despicable, blah, blah, blah. But he had never had a conversation with you.
No. And after that, we never had a conversation.
Wow.
So that happened. And that's We never had a conversation after that. So
he didn't even have the decency to like figure out, hey, you know, what's going on here, have a conversation. You're just like,
I tried.
Yeah.
It never happened. So
wow. Okay.
Candace, when answering Myron's question about why she so adamantly opposes the ideology of Zionism, stated that she does so because she will have to answer to God, hence why she can't stay silent on the truth after witnessing the evil done in the name of that ideology. As a Muslim, I differ with Candace on theology, but as a religious person, I completely relate with her reasoning and respect her stance as I see the matter in the same way. Candace revealed that whilst working under Zionist media companies in her previous professional role, she was pressured into siding with Israel at the beginning of their genocide in Gaza 2 years ago. She also credited Bassem Youssef for opening her eyes to the reality of Israel's excessive brutality towards the Palestinians after his viral interview with Piers Morgan in 2023. That Bassem interview was so important in breaking the spell of Israeli propaganda over the West for so many people. Just look at where we are today, especially Candace, from being unaware of the facts to being one of the loudest voices openly calling out the evil Israeli regime for their war crimes. It would be great to see Candace and Bassem sit down and have a discussion on this topic. Candace also credited Norman Finkelstein for his great work in educating her on the intricate details of Israel's historic persecution and exploitation of Palestinians. I think the same can be said about many of us in regards to what we've learned from Professor Finkelstein about the reality of Palestinian suffering. Myron was correct when he said the American conservative space is heavily influenced by Zionists that ensure that the Palestinian side of the story remains a secret. And like he said, the only positive that can be taken from Israel committing genocide in Gaza is that it brought their crimes against humanity to the attention of the world, to the point we are now openly criticising the atrocities they've committed. As Candace said, in the process of this mass awakening, all of these Zionist propagandist grifters have been exposed as being complete frauds, from Rabbi Shmuley to Ben Shapiro to countless others, all of whom will never be taken seriously ever again. Let's watch the next clip.
So you got banned from Australia. Right, you got banned from Australia.
It's like gangster.
Yeah,
almost,
and I
right?
was like, you know,
super bad.
Because I talk, people try to tell me like, you know, because I talk about world Jewry being a thing and how, you know, it's an international cabal that works together, you know, for the betterment of Israel, and they're located all across the world. And I use that example of how they got you literally banned in Australia, even though they represent like 2% of the population. How did that even happen? Like, how'd you get notified?
I was going to tour in Australia, and the Zionist lobby found out, and they publicly posted. It was like the Zionist Organization of Australia, maybe it was ZOA, publicly posted this thing.
Like their equivalent of APAC, right? Essentially.
Yeah. It's another APAC. There's so many of Zionist organizations, but they were effectively the ADL, and they posted this thing and publicly said that I should not be allowed in. My rhetoric was dangerous. They lied and said that I said that Jews, what did they say that I said? That Jews drink the blood of children, which was, I mean, it's just like completely.
The blood libel?
It was unbelievable. I mean, the way that came about was me liking a tweet, literally a like of a tweet of a person who called out Rabbi Shmuley and said Rabbi Shmuley had told a huge lie about me. So they were replying to Rabbi Shmuley and said, you didn't include that she, and then like told the truth about what I said. And then they ended their thing with, are you drunk on Christian blood again? So me liking this tweet,
yeah,
they went full media press corps. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Candace says, I'm like, are you kidding me? It was so obvious why I liked this tweet. Like this person debunked Rabbi Shmuley's lie, but this is how they lie. Yeah. This is how they lie.
And they take everything literal.
They take
Even
everything
if it's hyperbole
literally,
or whatever, it's like, oh, look at you, vile anti-Semite.
They successfully got me banned. I've never been in trouble, nothing. And they decided that I am too dangerous to speak in their country. So that I still think, and this has been my belief, everything that is happening, God wants to happen. So when that happened, it was because Australians needed to understand something about their country. Because people who didn't like me, who didn't support me, or weren't conservative in their country kind of looked up and went, why is this like mom of 4 being banned from our country? No matter what I think about her, I certainly don't think she's a threat, that she shouldn't be allowed in. Like and we've got literally people who have been accused of murder, people who have violated their visas in other countries, people that rap about murder are allowed in here. And you're telling me she's saying something that's so dangerous? And it, I think, contributed to more people listening to my podcast. What is she saying? So I do feel we are in this time where the more that they lie, it rebounds very quickly onto them, and it creates more pressure against them, and they can't stop lying. So
yeah, because you can never lie once, right? Like they always say, when you lie once, then you have to keep lying to perpetuate that same lie.
Right.
It's wild that hostile groups of Zionist extremists had Candace Owens banned from entering Australia for simply being against Israelis killing kids in Gaza. As Myron said, Zionism is a powerful global cult that enforces their toxic and dangerous ideology using mob tactics. And as both Candace and Myron pointed out, these attacks come in the form of smear campaigns from the mainstream media and corrupt organisations posing as watchdogs and advocacy farms that operate with the aim of silencing anyone exposing the genocidal Israeli regime. Like Candace said, after what we've witnessed in Gaza, these tactics no longer work and in fact backfire, resulting in anti-Zionist voices soaring in popularity as they're seen as being courageous, righteous and honest enough to stand against the oppression of our fellow human beings. Candace was correct when she said this is why followers of the Zionist ideology have to resort to lying in order to cover Israel's tracks, creating a negative cycle of censorship and false propaganda that the world now sees as being a total scam. Let's watch the last clip.
What other ways, I guess, has the Zionist lobby came after you? I've seen ADL articles. I've seen SPLC, right? They target me too.
Oh gosh, it was everything.
Did they lobby to get you demonetized on YouTube too?
Absolutely. They were like, just start mass reporting her for violence and violent rhetoric. And they did that. And then I had no strikes. And then I went to all strikes overnight and YouTube demonetized us. So what it forces you to do is to become your own power center. So they attack us on YouTube. They obviously got petitioned to get me fired, banned from Australia. They went after like my family members. Obviously, they tried to pretend that there was all this friction between me and my husband's father, and that could not be further from the truth. I love my husband's family. They have always treated me very well. But they wanted that narrative out there because it was part of the cancellation is even her own family hates her. And then, of course, the lawsuits, nonstop legal lawfare.
Between you, Tucker, Nick, they're attacking all three of you guys, saying, oh, you guys are anti-Semites and you guys are pushing this whole thing. And I give credit because you three have done an incredible job of, awareing the American public on this topic when it comes to Israel's control of the Middle East, what they're doing over there, how they've been able to get away with this for so long, killing people and no one knowing. What are your thoughts on the situation? Because anytime they mention Tucker, you're right there, right? When it comes to the criticism of Israel.
Yeah, even Bibi Netanyahu name checking us was crazy.
Yeah.
On the TikTok thing and why they needed to buy TikTok. They're letting you know this is a psychological operation. That's what they're telling you. They've gone masked down, and they've just come more inward. I have no idea why they kept attaching me to Tucker Carlson. They wanted both of us gone, and
Mark Levin loves you.
Yeah, I know. They force fired Tucker. They force fired me, and then they realized, oh, we can't control them, and we started having to build our own power centers, and they didn't like that.
And they made you guys bigger.
Exactly. So, and then with the Nick Fuentes thing, no matter how I feel about him, I root for him against the Zionist lobby. And there's something about the true free markets that Zionists can't stand. They're constantly manipulating the markets so that people think that they are number one, and they're not. They actually require censorship in order for them to be number one.
They never criticize what you guys talk about, right? They always criticize you guys directly, saying they're pushing anti-Semitism. Well, what are they saying that's anti-Semitic? Oh, well, it's just anti-Semitic. And they don't even want to have the discussion, the debate,
the truth
or anything. Yeah.
What is up with the Zionist lobby that they're going after 18-year-old kids for questioning Israel? That's actually what they're fearful of, is people understanding just how long this has been going on, how vicious it is that it will even go after an 18-year-old who's just asking questions literally. I think that's what it is. It's the mass awakening that's happening. And
I do think that we're making an impact on it because I remember when Trump bombed Iran, he had a lot of pressure on him not to do it. And he bombed them and then he ended it there, right? Who knows if he didn't have that pressure from his base to not go to war, if he had it, would have expanded the conflict, because we know Israel wanted to.
By the way, he still wants his war with Iran. They still want a regime change in Iran, and we have to continue to bark and continue to say that it's not okay. And it worked because we held the line on it and used our platforms to say, this is the red line.
Yeah, no wars. The Iraq war, there was no dissent.
Right.
We're going and nobody cares, and we don't, there was no one else talking about it. The news was super pro-war. Everyone wanted to go to war. And it wasn't until 10, 15 years later that the smoke evaporated and we're like, oh, this was a waste of time. Why did we go to... Saddam has nothing to do with bin Laden. Like, it didn't make sense.
It's crazy how Israeli lobbies had Candace's YouTube channel demonetized and filed non-stop lawsuits against her, as well as had her previous Zionist employer fire her and even went as far as going after her family members. I'm glad she did not let such bullying tactics deter her and instead stood up to these radicals by building her own platform that now does better numbers than all of her slimy detractors combined. Myron highlighted how Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes all have big targets targets on their backs due to their massive platforms, which they utilised to call out the very many atrocities and acts of oppression carried out by Israel across the Middle East. And like Candace, I don't have to agree with everything Nick, Tucker, Myron, or even Candace herself represent politically, but I do back them in their truthful stance against Israel, because we are fighting against a powerful common elitist enemy that requires a united effort on our part to uproot, regardless of our political and religious differences. Candace spoke about how Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu making public statements addressing her and Tucker Carlson was a mask-off moment that reveals the panic they're experiencing due to the world wisening up to Israel's corruption and the horrific reality of Zionism. As she said, this is due to their censorship and manipulation tactics no longer having the same effect as they did in the past. Myron was also correct when he said all they have is empty accusations of anti-Semitism due to the Zionist mafia being unable to debate facts that would expose them for who they really are. Myron made another good point when he said all of our collective efforts have made a huge impact, even though it might not seem that way, and proceeded to give Israel not getting America to fight a prolonged war against Iran due to political pressure as an example. Like he said, Israel used the exact same tactics to orchestrate the US invasion of Iraq, which at the time we were blind to, unlike now. As Candace said, the prospect of the US fighting a war against Iran for Israel is not off the table, and that this is precisely why we must maintain momentum and amp up the pressure in order for this not to happen. And that goes for Palestine too. There is a supposed ceasefire in place, but the IDF are still killing Palestinians on a daily basis, as well as the Israeli government still enforcing apartheid conditions and starvation on innocent people. Which is why we can't just let this issue fizzle away into the background, just like it was hidden away before the genocide took place. We must keep this at the forefront of global attention in order to end the evils of Zionism once and for all. Thank you for watching. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.